The Ritz-Carlton, Chicago. Friday night charity auction. Chloe Davis, a black woman in a sophisticated gown, stood beside her husband, Julian, near the silent auction tables. Someone mentioned interest rate hikes. She spoke. Actually, it's about the inverted yield curve. Julian grabbed her arm. Sweetheart, stop. That's naive, he said loudly. You're mistaken. Eyes turned, phones lifted, recording. My wife isn't in the finance world, he laughed. She doesn't get this. Silence, then snickers, whispers. Did he really just... How mortifying. No one helped. No one spoke up. Julian turned back to the men, dismissive, done with her. 12 hours later, he'll beg forgiveness. The black wife he called naive. She'll end everything he is. 9 years ago, Chloe Miller met Julian Vance at an industry summit in Scottsdale. She was a promising analyst. He was the CEO of Vance Equity Partners, a confirmed billionaire with a $1.6 billion verified net worth. He was charismatic, assured, and pursued her relentlessly. They married in 2017. A small ceremony, her family present but cautious. Olivia, her sister, pulled her aside before the reception. You sure about this? He talks over you. Chloe laughed it off. That's just his public persona. But Olivia was right. The pattern started small. Julian would correct Chloe at dinner parties. Actually, darling, the market works like this. Even when her insights were perfect, he'd introduce her to colleagues. This is my wife, Chloe. She has an interest in finance. An interest? Like it was a hobby. 2 children came. Sophie in 2019, Leo in 2021. Chloe took 10 weeks of maternity leave each time, returned to work, kept climbing, and made managing director in 2020. Julian never asked about the promotion, never asked about her portfolio, never asked about her day. At home, he'd say things, small cuts. You're lucky I handle our investments. You'd be lost. Or, don't try to understand this deal. It's complex. Or, after she'd suggest something, that's not how it works. Trust me. She started keeping her work life separate, using her maiden name professionally, Chloe Miller. Clients knew her. Colleagues respected her. But at home, she was just Julian's wife, the woman who kept the house running while he built his empire. And he was building. Vance Equity managed $9.5 billion. His personal wealth grew from inherited commercial real estate and shrewd tech investments. Forbes verified his billionaire status, real and substantial. In 2021, they tried marriage counseling. Dr. Evelyn Reed, 16 sessions. Julian dismissed every concern. She's being emotional. She doesn't understand the stress of business. Maybe if she had a real job, she'd get it. Dr. Reed documented everything. The dismissiveness, the belittling, the pattern. Counseling ended when Julian refused to continue. A waste of time and money. April 2022, the turning point. They had a fight. Julian screaming about Chloe not respecting his authority after she'd questioned a financial decision. He'd exploded. That night, alone in the guest room, Chloe made a decision. She opened her own bank accounts, a J.P. Morgan private client account, a Fidelity investment account, using her work income, all of it, to build independence. Julian never noticed. He assumed she dabbled in finance, made decent money, nothing significant. He never asked for the numbers. For 3.5 years, Chloe built her exit, saving $5.2 million, paying the kids' school tuition from her accounts, covering groceries, household expenses, everything. Julian paid the mortgage on their Gold Coast condominium, which he owned outright, but assumed he covered everything else. He didn't. He was being supported in daily life by a wife he continuously underestimated. She stayed for the children. At least that's what she told herself. Sophie and Leo deserved stability, but another part of her, The part that woke at 5 every morning to check the markets. That part was waiting. Waiting for Julian to make a public mistake she couldn't ignore. A mistake she could use. Tonight's auction. She agreed to attend. Rare. Julian wanted the power couple appearance. Important clients would be there. She put on the gown, the diamonds, checked her phone. The work phone Julian never saw. 3 client emails, portfolio up 9% year-to-date, deal closing next week worth $50 million. Shush! She slid the phone into her clutch, looked at Julian adjusting his cufflinks. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready," she said. She was. More than he knew. The Ritz-Carlton ballroom was exactly what you'd expect. Old money and new money pretending they're the same. Conversations flowed. Deals were made over cocktails. Julian worked the room. Chloe followed, playing her part. 9:47 p.m., the auction area. A small circle formed around a senior partner from Apollo Global Management. The topic: Federal Reserve policy, inflation, recession signals, the kind of discussion that happens at every finance event. "The yield curve inversion has me concerned," the Apollo partner said. "We're seeing patterns similar to 2020. Others nodded. Someone mentioned risk duration. Another brought up the 2-year, 10-year spread. Chloe listened. She'd been analyzing this exact scenario for clients. She knew the data, saw an opening. "The inversion pattern we're seeing now is actually different from 2020. The duration risk suggests—" Julian's hand on her arm. Gentle, controlling. "Sweetheart, these gentlemen have it covered." The circle shifted, uncomfortable, but someone tried to be polite, asking Chloe to continue. She started again. "If you look at the historical data—" "Sweetheart, stop." The room temperature dropped. Not literally, but you could hear it in the sudden quiet. Conversations at nearby tables paused. People sensed something wrong. A colleague tried to smooth it over. "Actually, I'd be interested to hear—" Julian cut him off, looked at Chloe, and said the words that would end his marriage. "No, that's naive. You're mistaken." Complete silence. Every person in that circle froze. Champagne flutes stopped mid-air. Someone's breath hitched. Chloe looked at her husband. "Julian." But he wasn't done. He was on a roll now, feeling the need to win, to dominate. "My wife doesn't actually work in the finance world. She doesn't understand these things." 3 phones were recording. Standard at these events. People capture networking moments, post them later. But tonight, those phones were capturing something else. Evidence. The exact moment Julian Vance called his wife naive in front of witnesses. Chloe's face showed nothing. No shock, no tears, no anger. Just a small, knowing smile. The smile of someone who's been waiting for exactly this. She said one word. "Excuse me?" She walked toward the restroom, back straight, head high, the posture of someone who knew her worth even when her husband didn't. Behind her, Julian laughed nervously, trying to recover. "Sorry about that. She's been stressed lately. Thinks she understands finance because she watches Bloomberg at home." A woman in the circle, someone who knew Chloe professionally, spoke up. "That was harsh, Julian." He waved it off. "It's fine. That's just how we are." But his hand shook when he picked up his drink, trembled slightly when he signed the auction bid. The stress was showing the cracks in his performance. In the restroom, Chloe stood at the marble sink, breathed deeply, took out her phone, the work phone, and texted her sister. "He did it. Said the word in public. I have witnesses." Olivia's response came fast. "Are you okay?" Chloe typed back. "I'm perfect. I'm free." She looked at herself in the mirror. 37 years old, managing director, Stanford GSB, mother of 2, wife of a man who just called her naive. Former wife. She fixed her lipstick, smoothed her gown, and walked back into the ballroom, staying another 45 minutes. Dignity. Control. She didn't flee, didn't cause a scene, just existed in the space with quiet authority. When she left, she took a car service. Julian stayed, drank with the guys, laughed it off, thinking it was over. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. That night, Julian came home late, assuming everything was fine. Chloe was in the guest room with the kids, the door locked. She wasn't sleeping. She was on her laptop, composing an email to attorney Eleanor Croft. Subject line, divorce consultation. Urgent. By 7 a.m., the video was on X. Chloe woke at 6:30 to 52 text messages. She knew before checking what they were about. The video. Someone posted it overnight. Anonymous account. The caption. Billionaire tells wife she's naive at charity auction. She walked away with more dignity than he'll ever have. Views, 5.1 million and climbing. The hashtags were already trending. Your toxic husband at number 2 nationally. Naive wife at number 5. Women were reclaiming it, sarcastically. Calling myself naive so my husband doesn't have to. The comment section was brutal. Did this man just call his wife naive in public? The way she kept her composure, queen behavior. I hope she divorces him and takes everything. Men who call their wives naive in public. Red flag, red flag, red flag. The audio was crystal clear. No ambiguity. No way to claim it was taken out of context. That's naive. You're mistaken. My wife doesn't actually work in the finance world. Julian woke at 10 fucked, hungover. He checked his phone. 200 notifications. Opened X. Saw his face, heard his voice, watched himself insult his wife. He laughed. Actually laughed. He texted Chloe at 10:17. LOL, we're viral. You okay? People are ridiculous. She responded at 10:19. I'm at Olivia's, he texted back. Come on, don't be dramatic. It was a joke. No response. He didn't understand. Genuinely didn't understand. This was just people being sensitive. Cancel culture. X outrage. It would blow over by Monday. His PR team called at 11 hours emergency meeting. Sir, this is escalating. We strongly recommend a brief apology, a joint statement with your wife, showing you're on the same page. Julian refused. No, I'm not apologizing for having a conversation. People are too sensitive. Sir, the word naive is trending. So he made a decision. A Bloomberg TV interview at 3 p.m. He'd set the record straight. The interview was a disaster. The anchor, a woman in her 40s, professional and direct. Mr. Vance, the video shows you calling your wife naive. What's your response? Julian leaned back, confident. First, that's taken out of context. We were having a financial discussion. You said, that's naive. You're mistaken. You don't work in the finance world. Right. And she doesn't. She's not in finance professionally. I was making a point about some viewers are calling this verbally abusive. He scoffed, actually scoffed on camera. Verbally abusive? I love my wife. We joke like this. She has a great sense of humor. People are reading way too much into a private moment. She didn't look like she was joking, Mr. Vance. That's her face when she's thinking. Look, this is ridiculous. Couples tease each other. My wife and I have been married 9 years. We're fine. This is a non-story that people are blowing up because they have nothing better to do. The anchor tried one more time. Do you regret your words? No, I said what I said. People need thicker skin. He never apologized, never acknowledged wrongdoing, never showed a single moment of remorse. The clip circulated within minutes. He's doubling down. No apology, no accountability. She deserves so much better. That's her face when she's thinking? This man is a walking red flag. A new hashtag emerged. Morzgant is stand with the naive wife. Women across across platforms, reclaimed the insult. They posted selfies. Naive wife who has a PhD. Naive wife who runs a Fortune 500 company. Naive wife who speaks 4 languages. The solidarity was swift and fierce. By 6 p.m., the story had been covered by the Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, and the Chicago Tribune. Finance executive's public insult of wife goes viral. The naive wife who wasn't. A modern marriage unravels online. Julian came home expecting Chloe. The condominium was empty, eerily quiet. No kids' voices. No Chloe moving in the kitchen. A text arrived. "The kids and I are staying with Olivia. I'll let you know when we're ready to talk." He stood in the empty living room, confused, frustrated. Why was she making such a big deal out of this? It was one comment, one moment. People were too sensitive. He poured a drink, opened his laptop, Googled himself. 20 million results, his name next to naive wife, his face on every major news site. Vance Equity, his company, issued a statement. Weak, generic. This is a personal matter between spouses and does not reflect company values. The comments on their social media were fire. Boycott Vance Equity. How can we trust a man who disrespects his own wife to manage our money? Julian's phone rang. His mother. He didn't answer. His brother. He didn't answer. His board chair. That one, he answered. Julian, we need to talk about damage control. It's fine, Robert. It'll blow over. The clients are nervous. They'll get over it, Julian. A pause. Your wife hasn't been identified publicly. Maybe keep it that way. Let this die down. She's not going to make a statement. She knows better. Robert Sterling hung up without responding. What Julian didn't know, Megan Riley, an investigative journalist at the Wall Street Journal, had just gotten off the phone with Chloe. They'd gone to college together, lost touch, reconnected tonight. Megan asked one question. One, can I help? Chloe's answer. Actually, yes. Day 2, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. The Wall Street Journal published. The headline ran across every financial terminal in Chicago. The wife Julian Vance called naive manages $5.1 billion and earns triple his annual income. Megan Riley didn't bury the lead. First paragraph. Chloe Vance, the woman seen in a viral video being dismissed by her husband at a charity auction, is a managing director at Summit Ridge Investments. She oversees a portfolio worth $5.1 billion. While her husband, Julian Vance, is indeed a billionaire with substantial inherited wealth, Chloe's annual compensation far exceeds his. The article continued, methodical, factual, devastating. Chloe Miller, her professional name. Stanford GSB, class of 2010. 15 years in finance. Joined Summit Ridge in 2015, made managing director in 2020. Portfolio performance, 12% above market average over 5 years. Client retention rate, 98%. Industry awards, 3, including a Goldman Sachs Rising Star in asset management. Her compensation, pulled from legally filed documents, $2.6 million in 2024, salary plus performance bonus. Julian Vance's compensation, from SEC filings Vance Equity must make public, $850,000 annual salary as CEO. Stock dividends, variable. The math was simple. Brutal. Chloe earned 3.05 times what Julian earned annually. She managed $5.1 billion. His firm managed $9.5 billion, but he was CEO with a management team. She was a hands-on portfolio manager, and he called her naive. The story quoted anonymous industry sources, people who'd worked with Chloe. She's one of the sharpest minds in fixed income. Clients request her specifically. Her analysis is always ahead of the curve. One detail Megan included. Chloe used her maiden name professionally, had for years. Julian, it seemed, never attended her work events, never asked about her title, never knew. A sidebar noted, Mr. Vance's billionaire status, while legitimate, an inherited real estate portfolio valued at $1.6 billion, does not translate to high annual income. His wealth is primarily in illiquid assets. Mrs. Vance, meanwhile, earns multi-million-dollar annual compensation through performance-based portfolio management. The Journal's website across Chicago lit up with the story. Trading floors, corner offices, conference rooms, everyone read it simultaneously. X exploded. Different tone now, not pity, vindication. Billionaire called his wife naive. She earns 3x more than him. Net worth versus earning power, she works, he inherited. She doesn't work in finance. She is finance. Imagine calling your wife naive when she out-earns you 3-1. The memes started. Screenshots of Julian's Bloomberg TV interview with Chloe's credentials overlaid. My wife doesn't work in finance. Next to, Managing Director, 5.1B AUM, 2.6 meters annual income. The juxtaposition was damning. Summit Ridge Investments issued a statement. Brief, professional, perfect. Ms. Miller is a valued leader at our firm. Her expertise and performance speak for themselves. We support her fully. No mention of the incident. No need. The numbers said everything. Julian's phone exploded again, but with different calls now. Not media. Clients. Julian, is it true your wife out-earns you? Why didn't we know about this? You called someone making $2.6 million naive? Vance Equity lost 3 clients by noon. $90 million in assets gone. The board called an emergency meeting for Monday. Julian, alone in his office, read the Journal piece 5 times, saw his wife's credentials laid out like evidence at a trial. Managing Director, Stanford GSB, $5.1 billion on $2.6 million annual compensation, 3 times his salary. He didn't know. Genuinely didn't know. She never told him. Except she did, years ago. He didn't listen, didn't ask, didn't care. His assistant knocked. Sir, the Financial Times wants a comment. No comment. Forbes. No comment. Your wife's attorney called. Eleanor Croft from Croft & Associates. Julian looked up. My wife has an attorney. Apparently for several days now. His world tilted slightly. Not collapse, not yet. Just the first tremor before the earthquake. At Olivia's apartment in Lincoln Park, Chloe sat with her sister. Coffee, morning light, her phone face down on the table. Sophie, 6 years old, asked, Mommy, why is everyone talking about you? Chloe pulled her daughter close. Because sometimes people need to know the truth, sweetie. What truth? That you should never let anyone make you feel small. Megan Riley didn't stop at one article. She kept digging. Over the next 4 days, Saturday through Tuesday, she built a case. Not a legal case, a public one. The kind that matters in the court of reputation. Day 3, Sunday. Megan made calls. Former Vance Equity employees. HR records obtained through anonymous sources. Marriage counselors. Dr. Evelyn Reed agreed to speak on background after obtaining legal clearance. The pattern started to show. Text messages. 200 of them. Chloe provided access to her phone. Screenshots backed up, time-stamped, authenticated. 9 years of marriage in digital form. 2018, early in the marriage. You're lucky I married you. Don't act so naive. 2020, after Chloe's promotion. So you have a fancy title. Don't let it go to your head. 2021, during counseling. That's a naive question, Chloe. Stop embarrassing yourself. 2022, during the fight that changed everything. Don't be naive. I know what's best for us. My family built wealth. I understand money. You just work for it. The irony. His inherited wealth sat passively. Her earned income funded their daily life. 2023. You don't understand business. Just trust me. 2024, after she questioned a financial decision. You should be grateful. Most men wouldn't put up with your attitude. 2025, the week before the auction. Wear the black gown tonight and don't talk business. Just smile and look pretty. The texts told a story. Coercive control, financial manipulation attempts, systematic belittling. Megan cross-referenced dates with other evidence. Dr. Evelyn Reed, the marriage counselor, spoke carefully. She couldn't reveal privileged information, but she could speak generally about patterns she saw. When one spouse consistently dismisses the other's professional accomplishments, questions their intelligence, and attempts to control their financial autonomy, that's not marital stress. That's psychological abuse. Megan asked, "You counseled the Vance couple?" "I can't confirm specific clients, but I can say that in cases where one spouse uses phrases like, 'You're not smart enough,' or 'You wouldn't understand' repeatedly, those patterns rarely improve without the aggressor acknowledging the behavior. Like, and if they don't acknowledge it, the relationship becomes unsafe emotionally, sometimes financially." The counseling notes themselves surfaced through legal channels. Chloe, working with attorney Croft, obtained her own records. 16 sessions, every session documented. Julian's dismissiveness, his refusal to validate Chloe's concerns, his insistence that she was being emotional. Session 12. Dr. Reed wrote, "Mr. Vance walked out when confronted about his pattern of interrupting and correcting his wife. States counseling is waste of money. Mrs. Vance visibly distressed but maintained composure." Session 16. Final. Mr. Vance refused to return. Mrs. Vance came alone, discussed safety planning and financial independence strategies. That was 2021, 4 years before the auction. Chloe had been planning her exit for 4 years. The financial records told another story. Chloe authorized limited disclosure. Strategic, devastating. April 2022. New account opened at JP Morgan Private Client. Chloe Miller. Initial deposit, $210,000. Grew to $5.2 million by October 2025. Fidelity investment account opened the same month. Managed personally. Current value, $2.1 million. Additional retirement accounts, emergency funds, all separate, all in her name only. The paper trail showed something else. Payments out. Kids' tuition at the Latin School of Chicago, $65,000 annually, paid from Chloe's account. Groceries, utilities, household expenses, car payments, even Julian's club membership. She was supporting the daily operations of the family for years, while he owned the condo, but assumed his ownership meant he was providing everything. He wasn't. An email surfaced, February 2025, 8 months before the auction, from Julian to his accountant, David Chen. Subject: Household Finances Review. Body: David, can you track my wife's spending? I think she's hiding purchases. Need a full accounting of where the money's going. David replied, Julian, I don't have access to her accounts. Per the post-nup amendment you signed in 2022, her finances are separate. Julian's response: What amendment? I don't remember signing anything. David: April 2022. You signed at the attorney's office after the mediation session. Julian never responded to that email. The post-nup amendment surfaced next. Chloe's attorney provided it. Julian's signature. Date: April 15, 2022. The document established complete financial separation. Separate accounts, separate debts, separate assets. In case of divorce, each kept their own. Julian signed it, drunk according to the attorney's notes after a particularly bad counseling session. He didn't read it, didn't care, thought it was standard paperwork. That signature protected Chloe's $5.2 million now. Vance Equity employees started talking, anonymously at first, then on record. Kevin Park, a former junior analyst, published a Medium post Sunday night. I worked at Vance Equity for 18 months. I left in 2023, not because of the long hours or the pressure, but because of Julian Vance. He detailed his experience, the belittling, the public mockery, the day Julian called him too emotional for the trading desk, after Kevin questioned a risky position. He told me I was being naive, that I should be grateful for the opportunity, that people like me don't usually make it in finance. People like him. Kevin is gay, Korean American, a first-generation college graduate. When I saw the video of him calling his wife naive, I recognized that tone, that look. I've been on the receiving end. I know what it feels like, and I'm done being silent. Within 48 hours of Kevin's post, 5 more people came forward. Maria Flores, a former VP at Vance Equity, left in 2024. He told me I'd never make partner because I wasn't tough enough. I was tougher than him, I just wasn't cruel. Carlos Vega, an analyst, left in 2023. He mocked my accent, made me repeat words for his entertainment, called it communication coaching. Aisha Bello, Client Services. I was in a meeting with a high-net-worth client, female, married. She asked questions about the portfolio strategy. Julian looked at me and said, "Your husband makes the investment decisions, right?" The client walked, pulling $20 million. 2 more employees, similar stories, pattern recognition, belittling, dismissiveness, gendered language, racial undertones. But the most damaging story came from an unexpected source. Alex Sterling, Julian's nephew, son of board member Robert Sterling. Alex, 28, a junior analyst at a different firm, posted on LinkedIn Monday morning. My uncle called his wife naive at a public event. I wasn't surprised. He said worse to me. Called me soft for supporting diversity initiatives. Questioned whether I belonged at the company despite my MBA from Kellogg. Blood doesn't excuse abuse. Position doesn't grant permission to demean. I stand with Chloe Vance and everyone else he's hurt. The post went viral. 20,000 shares. Because it wasn't just employees now, it was family. Robert Sterling, board member, couldn't defend his brother-in-law without defending the abuse of his own son. The silence from Vance Equity's board was deafening. If you've ever been told you're too sensitive when someone hurt you, drop a comment. You're not alone. Chloe's not alone. And the best part? It's just beginning. Day 9, Wednesday. Julian fought back. His attorneys, a white shoe firm on Wacker Drive, $1,500 an hour, sent letters, lots of letters, to the Wall Street Journal, to Chloe, to anyone who would listen. The letter to the Journal threatened defamation, claimed Megan Riley's reporting relied on illegally obtained private documents and biased sources with axes to grind, and demanded a retraction. It threatened a suit. The Journal's response through their legal team. Every fact in our reporting is documented and verified. We welcome the opportunity to defend our journalism in court. The letter to Chloe, through attorney Croft, was different. Nastier, more personal. Your client has violated marital privacy by sharing confidential communications. Her actions constitute emotional abuse and parental alienation. Mr. Vance demands an immediate cessation of all public statements and the return of the minor children to the marital home. Croft read it to Chloe over speakerphone. Chloe, sitting in Olivia's kitchen, listened without interruption. "He's trying to scare you," Croft said. "I know." "Are you scared?" "No." Because Chloe knew something Julian didn't. Everything she released, the texts, the financial records, the counseling notes, was legally obtained, all hers to share. The postnup he signed drunk in 2022 included a clause waiving confidentiality in case of divorce proceedings. Julian's attorneys didn't know about the postnup yet, but they were about to. Julian tried another strategy. Media spin. He planted stories through friendly outlets. Sources close to Vance say the marriage has been troubled for years. Both parties share responsibility. Mrs. Vance's career ambitions created tension. The narrative: ambitious wife, wealthy but stressed husband, modern marriage problems. It didn't work. One article tried the mental health angle. Friends of Julian Vance express concern about his wife's recent behavior, suggesting professional help might be beneficial. Weaponizing mental health. Classic gaslighting tactic. X buried them. He's now saying she's crazy? This man is a textbook abuser. By Friday, Julian's PR team quit. They couldn't control the narrative, couldn't contain the damage. Days 10 through 12. Julian tried something more direct. Access. Bank logs showed 4 attempts. October 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. Julian Vance tried logging into accounts he believed were joint. J.P. Morgan, Fidelity, Morgan Stanley. All denied. Access not authorized. He called the banks directly. I'm her husband. I need access to our accounts. J.P. Morgan. Sir, these are individual accounts. The account holder must grant access. I'm her husband. That gives me rights. Not to these accounts, sir. He didn't understand. He didn't remember signing the post-nup amendment. Didn't realize he gave away his leverage 3 years ago. Thursday, day 13. Julian showed up at Olivia's apartment. 10:20 a.m., unannounced. He pounded on the door. Olivia checked the security camera, texted Chloe, who was at work. He's here, Chloe called her sister. Don't open it. Olivia spoke through the door. Julian, leave now. I want to see my kids. Through the attorneys. You know the terms. I'm their father. Then act like it. Call Attorney Croft. Schedule a supervised visitation. He stood in the hallway for 10 minutes. Neighbors watching. Building security was called. He left before they arrived, but not before screaming, "You're turning my wife against me. This is parental alienation." The security camera caught everything. Olivia sent the footage to Attorney Croft. More evidence. Vance Equity's board held an emergency meeting Thursday afternoon. Conference room, 44th floor. 7 board members. Julian summoned. The leaked audio, Kevin Park still had building access, recorded from outside the room, revealed everything. Board Chair Robert Sterling. Julian, the clients are spooked. We've lost $180 million in redemptions this week. Julian. It's a temporary reaction. CFO Richard Barnes. This isn't about company finances. It's about you, your judgment, your character. Julian. My personal life doesn't affect... Robert. It does when you publicly humiliate your wife, who happens to be a highly respected managing director. It does when employees come forward with similar stories. It does when your own nephew posts about your behavior on LinkedIn. Silence on the tape. Richard. We're not worried about Vance Equity's balance sheet. We're worried about yours, your reputation, your ability to lead. More silence. Robert. We're advising, strongly advising, you retain separate personal counsel from company counsel. What happens next is your problem, not Vance Equity's. Julian. You're abandoning me? Robert. We're protecting the firm. You should have thought about that before calling your wife naive on camera. Julian stood, walked out, slammed the door. On the recording, after he left, Richard spoke quietly. We need to discuss succession planning. Robert. Already drafted. Julian steps down voluntarily or we vote him out. Board meeting next month. Does he know? He will. Chloe sat in Olivia's living room late Thursday night. The kids asleep, her laptop open. Attorney Croft's email was on the screen. Subject: Final decision needed, settlement versus divorce. Julian's latest offer, delivered that afternoon, $1.5 million lump sum. Full custody to him. A non-disclosure agreement. A public statement from Chloe. Our marital difficulties were mutual. I regret the public nature of our private struggles. In exchange, Julian would drop all claims, no child support demands, a clean split. Chloe read it 3 times. $1.5 million. Tax-free. Walk away, move on. Olivia sat beside her. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about Sophie. Sophie, 6 years old, smart, observant. Yesterday she'd asked, Mommy, why did Daddy call you naive on TV? Chloe had knelt down, eye level. Sometimes people say hurtful things when they feel small inside, sweetie. But you're not naive. You're the smartest person I know. Thank you, sweetheart. Is that why we're at Aunt Olivia's? Because Daddy feels small? 6 years old, already connecting the dots. Now Chloe stared at the settlement offer, thinking about what acceptance meant. Take the money, sign the NDA, teach Sophie that silence has a price, that dignity can be bought, that when someone hurts you publicly, privately, repeatedly, you smile and call it mutual. I can't, Chloe said. Olivia nodded. I know. He wants me to say it was mutual, that I'm partly responsible for him calling me naive in front of 200 people. What do you want? Chloe closed the laptop. I want Sophie to know that respect isn't negotiable, that you don't stay silent to keep the peace, that financial independence means the freedom to choose yourself, even if it's harder, especially then. Leo wandered in, 4 years old, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. Mommy can't sleep. Chloe pulled him onto her lap. He curled against her chest. Within minutes, his breathing slowed. Sleep. She looked at her son, thought about the man she married, the man she thought he was. Charismatic, successful, confident. When did confidence become control? When did love become leverage? Or was it always there? The interruptions at dinner parties, the corrections, the dismissals. Did she ignore the signs because she wanted the marriage to work? Because she had children? Because divorce felt like failure? She thought about Dr. Reed, the counselor, their final session. Chloe alone, Julian having quit. Dr. Reed had said, "You can't change him. You can only decide what you'll accept." 4 years ago, Chloe decided, she'd accept nothing less than respect. But she'd needed time, needed financial independence, needed evidence. Now she had all 3. Her phone buzzed. A text from Megan Riley. Board sources say Julian's being pushed out. Story dropping tomorrow. You'll want to see it. Chloe didn't respond. She just held her sleeping son. Sophie appeared in the doorway, awake. Mommy, are you crying? Was she? Chloe touched her face. Wet. Yes. Come here, sweetie. Sophie climbed onto the couch. Chloe held both children now, Leo sleeping, Sophie watching her mother's face. Are we going to be okay? Sophie asked. Yes. Promise? Promise. Because you're smart. Chloe laughed. Soft. Real. Because we're strong, all 3 of us. Sophie considered this. Daddy said you're not smart. I know, but you are. You're really, really smart. Thank you, Sophie. So Daddy was wrong. Chloe looked at her daughter, 6 years old, learning what truth meant, what accountability looked like, what it cost to stand up. Yes, sweetie. Daddy was wrong. Sophie nodded, satisfied. That's what I thought. If you've ever stayed for the kids but wondered if leaving would teach them more, this is your permission. Sometimes the bravest thing we do is show our children that we matter too. Friday morning, day 14. Chloe woke to a text from Attorney Croft. Check the journal. You'll want to be sitting down. She made coffee, opened her laptop. Olivia peered over her shoulder. The headline, Billionaire Julian Vance forced out as CEO. Board cites pattern of behavior inconsistent with company values. Megan Riley had been busy. The article was forensic, methodical, based on leaked board meeting minutes and employee testimonies. Vance Equity Partners Board voted Wednesday night 7-1 to remove Julian Vance as CEO, effective immediately. Not for financial reasons. The company remains profitable with $9.5 billion AUM, but for character reasons. The official statement: Mr. Vance's recent public behavior, combined with credible employee testimonies regarding workplace conduct, has created an untenable situation. The board has lost confidence in his ability to lead. The translation: We can't have a CEO who publicly calls his high-achieving wife naive and has a documented pattern of belittling employees. Julian Vance, billionaire, inherited real estate portfolio worth $1.6 billion, annual CEO salary $850,000, removed from the company bearing his family name. Meanwhile, Chloe Vance, self-made wealth, annual compensation $2.6 million, just received a job offer from Vanguard, managing director position, compensation package $4.1 million annually. The article continued. The irony is stark. Mr. Vance called his wife naive and claimed she doesn't work in finance, while she was out-earning him 3-1. Now he's jobless while she's being courted by one of the world's largest asset managers. Social media ignited. Billionaire loses job for calling wife naive. She earns 3x more. She keeps her job, he loses his. Karma. Net worth doesn't equal earning power. She works, he inherited, now he's unemployed. His $1.6 billion can't buy back his reputation. The hashtag, Dr. Billionaire Consequences, trended. The commentary was brutal but accurate. Having $1 billion doesn't make you immune to consequences for being abusive. Old money, new problems. Should have treated his wife with respect. Inherited wealth, inherited arrogance, well-deserved unemployment. But something else happened. Something more important. Other women started talking. Corporate wives, finance executives, women who'd hidden their success to protect fragile male egos. LinkedIn filled with posts, anonymous at first. I'm a finance executive. My husband introduces me as his wife at events, never mentions I'm CFO of a Fortune 500 company. Chloe Vance made me realize I don't have to accept that. My husband inherited his wealth. I built mine. He still talks down to me. Reading about Chloe's separate accounts gave me the courage to see a lawyer. My husband called me stupid last week in front of our kids. I thought I was overreacting. I'm not. Thank you, Chloe. The posts multiplied. Hundreds, then thousands. Women sharing stories, finding solidarity, building courage. Olivia's phone buzzed. She posted resources, links to financial independence guides, domestic violence hotlines, divorce attorneys specializing in high net worth cases. The post was shared 500,000 times. Messages flooded in. Thank you, I needed this. I'm finally leaving. Chloe read them quietly, tears streaming. She didn't want to be a symbol. She just wanted her dignity. But sometimes personal justice becomes collective courage. Day 21. 3 weeks since the auction. The full picture emerged. Megan Riley published her final investigative piece, the one that tied everything together. The billionaire who couldn't recognize success, how inherited wealth blinded Julian Vance to his wife's achievements. The article was comprehensive, a psychological profile backed by expert analysis. Dr. Samuel Green, an organizational psychologist at the University of Chicago, provided commentary. When someone's wealth is inherited rather than earned, they often struggle to recognize achievement in others. They conflate net worth with intelligence. Mr. Vance's $1.6 billion convinced him he understood finance better than his wife, despite her demonstrably superior earning power and active market performance. The financial breakdown Megan provided was devastating. Julian Vance, net worth, $1.6 billion, inherited real estate appreciated over 30 years. Annual income as CEO, $850,000. Stock performance under his leadership, flat matching market average, active involvement, delegated to a management team. Contribution, Figurehead. Chloe Vance. Net worth, $7.3 million. Self-built over 15 years. Annual income, $2.6 million, 2024. Offered $4.1 million, 2025. Portfolio performance, plus 112% above market average, under 5-year. Active involvement, direct portfolio management. Contribution, active value creation. The comparison, she created wealth, he sat on inherited wealth. But Megan's deepest investigation revealed something more troubling. Email chains, obtained through discovery. Julian to his personal attorney, Thomas Price, April 2022, right around the post-nup amendment signing. Thomas, the counselor keeps saying I need to acknowledge Chloe's career. Why? I have $1 billion. Her salary is pocket change. I'm letting her work because it makes her happy. Isn't that enough? Thomas's response. Julian, her career is independent of your wealth. You should respect. Julian. Respect what? She wouldn't have her job without the connections my name provided. She should be grateful. Except Chloe never used his connections. She built her career on her maiden name, at firms where Vance Equity wasn't even a client. Another email. November 2024, a year before the auction. Julian to Richard Barnes, CFO. Why are we paying Maria Flores $210K? That's too much for her role. Richard. That's the market rate for her experience. Julian. Market rate according to what? I didn't make my billion by overpaying people. Richard. You didn't make your billion. You inherited it, and Maria's salary is appropriate. The email thread ended. The pattern became clear. Julian Vance believed his inherited wealth made him smarter, more capable, more deserving than people who earned their money, including his wife. Dr. Green's analysis continued. This is a textbook Dunning-Kruger effect combined with wealth insulation. Mr. Vance was surrounded by yes people who validated his self-perception. His wife, earning triple his salary through actual performance, represented a threat to his constructed identity. The article included one final piece. Audio from the marriage counseling sessions, legally obtained through Chloe's records request. Dr. Reed. Julian, Chloe has expressed feeling dismissed when discussing her work. Can you acknowledge her feelings? Julian. I acknowledge that she feels that way. I don't acknowledge that she should. She's being oversensitive. I have $1 billion company. I think I know what I'm talking about. Dr. Reed. Chloe's not questioning your business success. She's asking you to respect hers. Julian. How can I respect something I had to give her? Silence on the tape. Dr. Reed. I'm sorry, what do you mean by give her? Julian. The opportunity, the lifestyle, the connections. Without me, she'd be... Chloe's voice, quiet but firm. A Stanford GSB grad with 15 years of finance experience. That's what I'd be. What I am, with or without you. That was session number 14. 2 before the end. 2 before Chloe started planning her exit. Attorney Croft called. Chloe, have you seen the article? Reading it now. Julian's attorney just called. He wants to settle today. No conditions. He'll accept your terms. Why the rush? Because tomorrow the Harvard Business Review publishes a case study on inherited wealth versus earned success. Guess who's the cautionary tale? Chloe closed her laptop. Tell him I'll think about it. She wouldn't accept today. Wouldn't give him the mercy of a quick resolution. He made her wait 9 years for respect. He could wait 48 hours for divorce terms. December 1st, the Ritz-Carlton, Chicago. Same ballroom, different energy. Not an auction this time. A press conference. 89 people in attendance. Journalists, industry colleagues, some of the original witnesses from that night 5 weeks ago. Kevin Park, Maria Flores, Carlos Vega, the people Julian hurt, the people who spoke up. Chloe sat in the front row, Olivia beside her, Attorney Croft on her other side. Sophie and Leo were at home with a sitter. Some things children don't need to witness. Julian entered at 3:00 p.m., flanked by attorneys. He looked different. Thinner, gray showing at his temples. An expensive suit, one of the few assets he actually owned. Still wealthy, still a billionaire on paper, but humbled, publicly defeated. He walked to the podium. Microphone, no prepared remarks visible. His attorney insisted he memorize it. Eye contact, sincerity, the performance of accountability. He cleared his throat. The room silenced. My name is Julian Vance. 5 weeks ago, at an event in this room, I called my wife naive in front of colleagues, in front of friends, in front of strangers. I told her she didn't understand finance. I dismissed her expertise. I belittled her intelligence. His voice cracked slightly. Hard to tell if it was genuine. I was wrong. Completely, inexcusably wrong. My wife, Chloe, is a managing director at one of the most respected firms in Chicago. She manages billions of dollars. She outperforms the market consistently. She is brilliant at her work. She earns 3 times what I earned as CEO, and I never acknowledged that, never asked about it, never cared to know. He looked directly at Chloe. She didn't look away. For 9 years, I made her smaller. I interrupted her, corrected her, dismissed her accomplishments. I told her she wasn't smart enough, that she didn't understand, that she should be grateful. A pause. The truth is, I was the one who should have been grateful. Grateful she stayed as long as she did. I confused my inherited wealth with earned intelligence. I thought my bank account made me smarter. It didn't. It just made me arrogant. Another pause. Longer. I called her naive because I felt inadequate, because she was building something real, and I was just maintaining what my family gave me. And instead of asking for help, instead of being honest, I tried to make her feel as small as I felt. The room was silent. Absolutely silent. I apologized to Chloe. I apologized to my children, who deserve better. I apologized to everyone I've hurt with my behavior. My employees, my colleagues, my family. He looked down, breathed. There's no excuse, no justification. I was cruel. I was wrong. And I'm sorry. He stepped back from the podium, waiting. His attorney said there'd be questions, but there were none. No one had anything to ask. The apology sat in the air. Adequate, not moving, not transformative, just adequate. Chloe stood, walked to the podium. Julian stepped aside. Her attorney read her statement. Chloe didn't speak herself, didn't need to. Croft's voice carried. Mrs. Vance accepts this apology for what it is, a necessary step. She filed for divorce on October 23rd. Terms have been agreed upon. Primary custody to her. Child support has been established. This matter is now concluded. Mrs. Vance asks for privacy as she and her children begin their next chapter. Thank you. 3 minutes total, both statements. Years of marriage ending in under 200 words. Chloe walked out, didn't look back. Olivia followed. Outside, crisp air, December in Chicago, the city moving, indifferent to personal reckonings. How do you feel? Olivia asked. Chloe thought. Free. 1 year later, October 2026. Chloe Miller, her name legally restored, arrived at Vanguard's Chicago headquarters. Monday morning. Senior Managing Director now, she accepted the position 4 months after the divorce finalized. Her office overlooked Millennium Park, sunlight through floor-to-ceiling windows. Portfolio performance, 19% year-to-date. Client acquisitions, 14 new accounts. Total assets under management, $10.2 billion. Annual compensation, $4.5 million, more than 5 times what Julian earned as CEO. Sophie was 7, Leo 5. They adjusted. Therapy helped. Julian saw them every other weekend. Supervised visits ended after 6 months. He completed a domestic abuse program. He paid his child support, a substantial amount based on his net worth, and showed up on time. He worked now as a consultant, an advisory role, remote work. The billionaire who lost his company. Still wealthy, still comfortable, but no longer powerful. The story faded. The media moved on, but the ripple effects remained. 3 major finance firms revised their HR policies, creating independent reporting systems and mandatory bias training. The Vance equity effect was referenced in trade publications. A cautionary tale. Chloe gave occasional talks to women in finance groups, not about Julian, about financial independence, separate accounts, exit planning, dignity. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "I left my husband today. Built my own account like you said. Thank you." Chloe didn't reply. She didn't need to. She just smiled, continuing her morning. Because the story wasn't about revenge. It never was. It was about a woman who built her freedom in silence, who waited for the right moment, who proved that dignity isn't negotiable and intelligence can't be dismissed. He was a billionaire who called his wife naive. She earned triple his salary. She planned for 4 years. She left with her head held high, and her daughter learned the most important lesson. Never let anyone make you feel small. Wealth doesn't equal worth. The math doesn't lie. It never did. If this story resonates, share it. Someone needs to hear it. And remember, you don't need permission to know your worth. You just need the courage to act on it.